Welcome to the Maria Heller Show, the Internet's original podcast. Since the year 2000, always ahead of the curve, always on your side. A true warrior for truth and justice, Maria and her guests leave nothing out, and no one is off limits. There is only one truth, the rest is lies. Sit back, enjoy the education with a true daughter of Mother Earth. Sharp New York wit, spiritual knowing, and a very dry sense of humor, Maria will dissect the news and lies to make it all palatable. Education is power. Maria delivers rapid-fire truth like no one else can. Here she is, the mouth that roars, the legendary Meria Heller.
Good morning, world. Maria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to Stars R Us with my co-host, astrologer, and a man of world knowledge, Joseph Anthony. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Maria, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, man. It looks like it's going to be a pretty hot New Year. Not where you're getting the new weather anomaly called a weather bomb or something on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely going to be a high vibrational year, is what I'm calling it, a high vibrational year. And it seems like we're on that path to just changing everything, you know, weather, politics, our feelings, our thoughts, everything is on the table this year, Maria.
I know, it looks it. It certainly looks it. You know, I've been wondering what the countdown to 2020 was going to look like, but man, looks like it's going to be a pretty juicy year, to say the least. What do you think about all these weather anomalies and fires? You know, for me, I'm at the point now where everything's a conspiracy.
Yes, I would have to agree with you there. Knowing what we know, and your listeners know, that none of this stuff is by chance.
Right.
I mean, some of it may be, you know, weather-related because of the Earth's magnetic fields that are shifting and all that stuff, yes. But I think a lot of it is being induced,
right?
Especially the fires.
Well, what about the East Coast? What about the East Coast? I had a report yesterday that sharks are floating up on the shore frozen.
I saw that.
And they said, don't compare it to Day After Tomorrow, which was actually in the report. Remember that movie? And I was like, well, what the hell else is it? You know, when that movie came out, I said, this is something real. But what I like is that they call it an anomaly. They got a new name for it. And it's kind of like how they're naming all these new clouds, which you and I know are all weather engineered chemtrails.
Oh yeah, and it's pretty disheartening when I come up here and I see, you know, go outside and I see all these clouds. Look, the bottom line is that they've known this for a while, for maybe 30, 40, 50 years, that there was going to be some sort of cosmic event that was going to change the patterns of the jet streams, the magnetic fields. And of course, they always like to get in there and mix it up. This is why we had that clown Gore talking about global warming. It's not actually global warming, it's global cooling. And so here we see it. We see now what's taking place. But I would have to say 70% of it is probably being geoengineered. Okay? In other words, using the frequencies of the cell phone towers, satellites, and whatever else technology they have, to manipulate the clouds, heat them up, and so on. So we haven't had rain here in Arizona for quite a while.
No, I don't remember the last time it rained.
Right, exactly. And then, of course, there is that percentage, the 30%, that is definitely weather anomaly, higher vibration, changing the frequency on a natural level.
Right.
And I don't know if you saw the post that I posted yesterday on Facebook. Somebody captured these beautiful lights all around the world coming through the clouds. This light, and that just hit me.
Yeah, I did.
And you can see it on my Facebook post,
yeah,
and it's just incredible.
I know, it reminded me of the Northern Lights.
The Northern Lights, right, going through the clouds. Now, the strange thing is when I'm up at my gallery sometimes and the sun is going down, I could see it through the atrium. This amazing glow that is around the sun, and it's bright as can be, you know, not looking directly at the sun, but the sides of the sun. And it's so thick. I've never seen it so thick. And maybe it's the chemtrails. Maybe it's something else.
Right. We never know. What I find
know
interesting, though, Joe, is this freak winter storm where, it's snowing in Florida and whatnot. It seems to always affect the the people that didn't vote for Trump states, especially those fires in California.
Well, look, they're using, no doubt about it, the powers that shouldn't be, beyond Trump, are using the power, using weather manipulation to divert attention from what's really going on. And from what I gather, and I've been saying this all along, Maria, it's the pedophilia control network that is running scared, because that is the biggest story in the last couple of years, in my opinion, that they fear the most. Because once you open up that Pandora's box and you realize that these kids are being used as sacrifices, and they're drawing their energy and so on and so forth, you're opening up a Pandora's box of conspiracy. And of course, you and I and our listeners know this stuff already, and it's crazy. But the average person that gets wind of this is just going to nah, that's not real. That's bullshit.
Right.
Well, the evidence is all over.
Listen, it's really funny. I'll tell you why. Because I've been sick, like it feels like, for a year from chemtrail poisoning. I have no doubt. And one of my close friends denies that it's chemtrails. But then he was leaving my house on a full moon, and he actually saw the chemtrails in the dark, in the night, because of the full moons, and he pointed up and he said, "Oh, chemtrails." It's like he had to see them being sprayed at night in order to be convinced.
Right, exactly. And so, yes, that is playing a major factor in our health. But I really do think it's the frequency manipulation along with the chemtrails, because obviously you're putting aluminum and barium and stuff like that into the atmosphere. So it's distorting the frequency. The thing that I got, and this is a few years ago when I was meditating, why were they trying to block the sun? And the reason is because the frequency that's coming in at such a high rate that if they allowed it to come through full head on, two things would happen. One, those of us that are enlightened would be walking around like blissful idiots, our natural state, and I'm joking, obviously. We would become so enlightened beyond what we are aware of right now. In other words, our intuition and our hearts would open up much faster and deeper, which is happening too, by the way, Maria. You know that.
Right.
And the second thing was that the average person would not be able to withstand the frequency that was coming in, and they would start running around like chickens without a head. And that's also what I see. So it's almost like they're doing this to control the population and to hold back the frequency that's coming in from the photon belt, the solar minimum, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And so, and I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but there's definitely a manipulation taking place.
Oh, yeah. I just started reading David Icke's latest book, Everything You Need to Know and Were Never Told. And he covers the nanobots and the nanodust that's in the chemtrails. And, nanos are self-replicating. And he says, whether we like it or not, we're all breathing it. It's falling on our food, etc. And that it's actually mutating us as humans, almost similar to that old movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And once that 5G network goes in, it's like we'll all be attuned to it. So this is some pretty sick shit going on.
Yeah, I can't disagree, because when I turn on my water here in the faucet, I'm getting shocked from my water. Okay? And this has not happened, only in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been getting more shocked from water. And we know some people around here have actually had their water tested, and they've noticed that there are higher levels of aluminum and metals in the water. And so you're right. Whatever they're spraying,
and I don't know.
going into the water.
And I'm sure your weather is similar to ours. I mean, we're still having fall weather in January. We've had no winter yet.
Exactly.
And yet people from the entire East Coast is going to see a winter, so they say, worse than, they actually said the temperatures in Alaska were higher than the East Coast this weekend.
Yeah. Well, something is definitely shifting and is being guided along. But even the numerology this year, Maria, and I put out a short video, as you know, with this. We're in an 11-2 year. which is a higher frequency to begin with.
Right.
So we are definitely, this year, are definitely going to feel more and become more aware of things. This really is an enlightenment that's taking place, and more people are starting to see through the illusion and are looking into all these so-called conspiracies that turn out to be, actually happening.
All right.
So,
I call them conspiracy facts.
right.
It's certainly not theories. So when you looked ahead, excuse me, when you looked ahead at 2018, what was the general feel of the year to you?
Okay, good question. Because of the high vibration, the first thing I got, looking at the astrology and looking at the alignments and all the eclipses and stuff like that, high vibration, like this 11-2 year, is going to increase the frequency.
Right.
Yes, a little bit more than normal. So it hasn't started yet. It'll start in February, where we just start feeling more motivated, or the drive and determination becomes stronger. And we're also becoming more intuitive. And so, like, our natural instincts are coming forth under an 11-2 year. And even the astrology indicates that, because as we start off the year, Uranus, the planet of innovation and humanity, is woken up. And so for the first 8 months of 2018, there is this feeling of new, need to change. We need to go forward. We need to, clean up our act, so to speak. And so the feel for the year really is about letting go of the past and making way for new ideas, values, concepts, belief systems, political structures, monetary policies. Everything is indicating new. Letting go old, new. And in between all this, there is some good news. There's some feelings of happiness and contentment. This is because of Jupiter, aligning positively to Pluto and Neptune throughout the year, several times throughout the year. So I'm seeing a year that just seems to be a little bit happier than last year, with more changes, more awareness, and more intuition, but also connecting with people that we need to connect with. And I mean that on every level, whether it's spiritual, whether it's romantic, whether it's business. The connection, when we're in the 2 year, we're always connecting with people that we just are on the same wavelength with. So I would say it's going to be a very social year, much more social than last year. Last year was more of a lower frequency, wanting to hide and lay low, not really wanting to socialize. But this is definitely going to feel like a different year in that regard. And but the big thing is really the value system that's changing, and we'll get into that when we get into Uranus into Taurus. But the value system is changing, and so it's like every year we're changing something on a lower level, on a subconscious level, I mean, and we're slowly creeping towards an inevitable change of society. And I think it's only going to accelerate from here. 2019, 2020, we're going to see governments completely change, or new systems in place. That's when Saturn and Pluto join forces. And that will absolutely destroy any old ways of looking at things, in terms of structures, governments, religion. All of these places are just going to start to evaporate or dramatically change in some way.
Good.
And as we go in, yes, exactly. As we go into the 20s, 2023, 2024 is where we enter the amazing technology era. And dare I say, ET, UFO, discovery. I mean, it's already been put out there. They slowly leaked it. And I was watching the X-Files, that latest X-Files that just came out.
I haven't seen it yet.
Season.
I haven't seen it yet. Don't ruin it for me.
I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I'm going to tell you something.
What?
There is more truth coming out of that damn show from last season and this season.
All right. Well, they said they were going to take on aliens this season, so I haven't gotten to see it.
Oh, man. I'm looking forward to it, because it's like, finally, this is real information that's in a television show.
Right.
That's coming out.
Right. More than you'll get in the news. Now, you say
Right.
that this year starts with a full moon in Cancer, and it ends the first month of January with a full moon lunar eclipse at the end of the month.
Yeah, I mean, the first month of 2018 is just screaming, let go of the past. Okay, we have right at the beginning of the year, the full moon in Cancer is about getting in touch with our emotions, and we already felt that, but it's about connecting with those we care about and just moving on. And then the lunar eclipse at the end of all lunar eclipses are bringing something to light and removing or letting go or moving beyond. Okay. And this one is going to be in Leo. So it has a lot to do with our pride, our creativity, how we're seen, how we're heard, our ideas. And so we are literally this first month of January saying, get rid of stuff that's not working, whether we're talking physical stuff like things, clothes, furniture, I don't care, whatever it is, friendships, people, situations that no longer work. Okay? And move it out, because February's energy that's coming in is basically screaming new, creative, break the old cycles, move beyond your comfort zone. Look at humanity in a different way. Look at yourself in a different way. Be irreverent. Be different. That's what it's screaming because of the solar eclipse in February.
Right. But you talked about the full moon lunar eclipse this month, that it could suggest big changes for the United States. Why the United States in particular?
Well, because it's a Cancer nation. We were born on July 7th, 1776 officially, and that's the sign of Cancer. So every Cancer cycle from the moon, especially eclipses, are suggesting that there's going to be another end or another completion or something new that gets revealed. And so this month, and a lot of this information, again, is not mainstream, as you and I both know. It's in places where you got to dig for it, and the so-called conspiracy sites and so on, where there's stuff moving behind the scenes, revelations. The foundation of the United States is changing. The structure of the United States is changing. As you know and I know, and your listeners and the listeners know, that there is a power struggle going on behind the scenes for control of the United States.
Right now, it's not just behind the scenes; it's in front of the scenes too, with everybody turning on everybody. It seems in the Republican Party.
They're all running. They're afraid. Who's going to take down who? Who's going to? That's what's actually happening. But that's an indication of the full moon and the lunar eclipse affecting the United States. You see?
Yeah, it's madness. It's just madness what's going on between Trump, Bannon, Flynn, Trump Jr., Jeff Sessions now wanting to reverse Obama's policy on the federal government not going after, legal pot states. I mean, it's as if they deliberately try to destroy the whole government, and I think it'll end up getting destroyed in the opposite way.
Well, I welcome any form of dramatic change right now. In the next couple of years, you're going to see it. Whether it's, obviously they're starting off with stuff that's smaller, on a smaller scale, like going after states that legalize pot. That's in the scheme of things, in my opinion, the bigger issue is getting rid of the Federal Reserve, getting rid of the banking system.
Right.
That is serious business, to me anyway, because it'll affect so many more people than just the pot states. I mean, it's important to those people.
They just passed a tax bill that's going to kill us all, and they're worried about whether you're smoking pot.
I'm so looking forward to the day where we don't have an IRS anymore.
That'd be wonderful. Be wonderful.
Yeah.
But do we have an abnormal amount of eclipses in this year?
Not really. Each year we have a minimum of 4 and sometimes up to 6 because they're smaller eclipses. They're not total eclipses, so they're slightly different. This year we have 5 eclipses, and the beginning of the year is the first 2. January the 31st is the lunar eclipse in Leo, and then February 15th is the solar eclipse in Aquarius. Now, these 2 are setting the stage for the year ahead, but the middle of the year, Maria, is going to be the trickiest time. And I say this because the solar eclipse on January the 12th is in Cancer once again. And so it's going to affect the United States in some way, something new revelation, new ideas, new concepts. Maybe they'll get rid of the IRS, stuff like that.
Right.
And then, of course, the July 27th lunar eclipse is again in Aquarius, representing humanity, representing changes to our thinking, our fellow man, so on and so forth. And then finally, the last eclipse on August 11th is a solar eclipse in Leo, which is really probably the strongest one of all the eclipses, that is basically saying, you know, be more creative, be more loving. Realize that we're all one family. You know, that's the mindset behind it. Mm-hmm. But what makes this so tricky is that we have Mars retrograde throughout that whole period. Mars from June the 26th through August the 27th will be retrograde in Aquarius and then slowly backtrack into Capricorn, which means as excited as we'll be about moving forward with ideas, there'll always be this hesitation. Am I doing the right thing? Is this what I really want? I'm not sure. Maybe. In other words, we'll overanalyze everything to death.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Even though the energy is saying new, creative, go, no. You know, and so again, there'll be this push and pull of ideas, concepts, you know, business, relationships of all kinds. So it's going to be the trickiest time of the year, I would say, is between June the 26th and August the 27th, with those three eclipses all right there, bundled up. That, you know, when they're that close, it just means there's a lot of energy building up.
Right. Right.
And so we have a lot of energy building up between that time frame.
Right. So from May to November, and Uranus is supposed to be moving into Taurus. What does that mean? Because that looks like a long time, May to November.
Yes, and I'm glad we brought up the Uranus and Taurus, because that is one of the big events of 2018. Uranus will finally make a change of sign, you know, will change its sign. And in Taurus is everything, and people could look this up, what does Taurus represent in the zodiac? Represents our values. It represents our money. It represents how we exchange, you know, our value for other people. It represents resources. It represents money in a broad sense as well. It represents the physical side of life. And when Uranus, the planet of innovation, change, sudden awareness, you know, shock and awe, this planet and Taurus don't exactly get along very well. Okay, so on the one hand, you have Taurus, the bull that is steadfast, wants things stable, wants to build, and then you have Uranus, on the other hand, that wants to destroy and change. It's like lightning. You know, when you think of Uranus, think of lightning. It strikes fast, it comes in, it destroys, it changes things up. And so poor Taurus, on the other hand, is like, I'm going to be stable, I'm going to, you know, build this, and this is how it's going to be, and I'll create a large amount of wealth, and blah, blah, blah. So when these two, this transit between May the 15th and November I believe it's the 6th, it enters Taurus. And so everything to do with money, everything to do with our values, our awareness, you're going to start seeing people like dress differently and weirder. You know, this always reminds me of those people that are wearing the blue colored hair and the pink colored hair and, you know, loud jackets and, you know, stuff like that. That always reminds me of that. You know, Uranus energy. And people will spend money that they don't have or on things that they don't need, like the latest and greatest technology that does, you know, 14 different things and so on and so forth.
Right.
And so, but the financial system is absolutely highlighted. We astrologers are looking at the financial stuff going, okay, let's see the dollar change or collapse or... And a big example of the Uranus and Taurus is all this bit currency and these cryptocurrencies, you know, they're vying for interest. And so we have like 6 of them out there, you know, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. I mean, this is where we're going with in terms of money. Right.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because Ralph Nader put out an article this morning about how all these cryptocurrencies are moving us away from cash. Had talked about, you know, the cashless societies that we predicted, you know, 40 years ago. And then I'm pretty sure I saw something where Iran, I don't know if it's true or not, I didn't get to really look at it because I was so busy, where Iran and Russia were talking about dealing in cryptocurrencies and dropping the dollar.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, China has been the biggest investor right now in the Bitcoin. This is what's been driving the price of Bitcoin through the roof. has been mostly the Asian markets and people there dumping their dollars and their currency, their local currencies, and putting it into Bitcoin for two reasons. One, for obvious reasons, if their economy collapses or the dollar collapses, they retain their value. But number two is to hide their money from the governments.
Right.
So, but this is not going away anytime soon. And I agree with you. Yes, going away from the cashless society. And I mean, we know that some of this stuff has been orchestrated at the highest levels. To push away from currencies. And they've got the technology to even crack into these Bitcoins, even though it's very difficult because the bits are scattered throughout, thousands and hundreds of thousands of computers. That's what a BitTorrent is. There's a little bit of information that's scattered all over the internet. And you only, you have the key to bring it all into one place. Okay? So, unless you give somebody your Bitcoin key or something like that, nobody could really know what's going on with your account.
Right. But when I was looking through your newsletter, you also said that this year will be all about serious business.
Yes, and that's the other planet that's making major changes this year, and that's Saturn. Saturn entered Capricorn in December around the 19th. And this guy is going to be with us for 2.5 to 3 years in the sign of Capricorn, the sign that it rules. And this means it'll begin to elevate itself and its prominence, and we'll feel it. Saturn in Capricorn is about our jobs, is about our responsibilities, it's about our structure, our foundation, each of us as individuals, but also on a larger scale with companies, corporations, religions, so on and so forth. And this planet, because it's going to be in Capricorn and close to Pluto, the destroyer, we have 3 years of major, I would say, restriction or feeling responsible or feeling that we need to do more. There's a heavy feel with Saturn in Capricorn. There's no doubt about it. It's like you have to work hard. You have to put the effort in to get rewarded. And like I said in the newsletter, Capricorn is a no-frills kind of sign. It's like, you want this? How bad do you want this? You're going to have to put the effort in. And only then will you be rewarded somewhere down the line, you see? And that's how Saturn works. It restricts you and it forces you to build a structure, a foundation, an idea, a concept that you need to build. It's like building a Lego house or something,
Right.
And so it represents the limitations, but at the same time, it provides the structure for building something. And so what you're going to see in the next few years is this greater concern for jobs and work and responsibility, because as the economy begins to change or the monetary system begins to change, and we know in the United States here, the jobs of basically any manual jobs, have been sent overseas, and we're more like the technology part of the world. This is going to become an issue because technology is is innovating the way we do work and how we go to work and so on and so forth.
Well, you see how they're talking about, universal income because of AI taking over jobs. And in a lot of countries, especially China, they got AI taking over all kinds of jobs. So, it makes sense that people are going to wonder, what do I do? What am I going to do? What do I do to make a living? How do I exist?
Well, the thing is we're going to get to a point where, yes, AI is going to be, unfortunately, part of it. But we're going to get to a point, I believe, in maybe the late 20s or even into the early 2030s, where AI is going to get so smart that there won't be a need to do manual labor because the machines will sort of take over. It's kind of like the Matrix in a sense. And then people will have to change their value system and start realizing who they are. Food will be important, but I think we'll be changing our diets as well. In other words, we won't be eating animals as much, I believe. That's just my thought, because the vibrational increase, our bodies won't need that heavy food anymore. I can only speak for myself. I've gone more vegetarian than ever before in my life.
Good for you.
It has nothing to do with age. It has more to do with awareness.
All right, good for you. Well, you know, it reminds me of that song. You know, you probably don't remember it, but there was a song in the 60s called In the Year 2025.
Sure, I remember.
And they
Absolutely.
did the countdown. And what you just said reminded me of that song. You know, if man is still alive, you know, if woman can survive. And it goes on basically to discuss the future. So, you know, whoever wrote that song might have had an intuitive hit on the future. Now, one of the things you wrote that's kind of scary, but I can predict it, okay? I know we're headed for a depression that's going to make 2008 look mild, but you put in your newsletter, Saturn was in Capricorn during the worst part of the Great Depression in the early 1930s. And here it comes again.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. You know, every cycle repeats. Some, you know, in 10, 20, 30 years, some a couple of hundred years. Mm-hmm. So Saturn, yes, after the Great Depression, and by the way, the evil bastards that caused the Great Depression knew all this.
Right.
You know, and they knew that the ball was in their court when Saturn went into Capricorn, that they could start buying up banks at pennies of the dollar and other businesses, and that's exactly what they did.
Right.
You know, the evil Rockefellers, primarily. So yes, that's the last time it was in Capricorn. Mm. But the advantage we have this time around, is we have technology. So in other words, we could be a little bit more innovative. We could exchange information at a rapid pace. We could connect with people at a rapid pace. Let's say, you know, you can't get to the store and buy food. You could text your neighbor or, you know, connect with somebody via the internet. And I do believe the internet will still be up, even though these evil bastards are trying to tax every angle of it.
Right.
You know, and you have to pay to go on sites now. I'm like, that, you know, if there's one thing that we should stick together on is to no net neutrality. I mean, just let the freaking thing be without, you know, all these taxes and fees. But anyway, that's when the dark net will just keep becoming more and more popular and people start going underground. But my point being is you saw the example of what Saturn and Capricorn could do in the years following the Great Depression. You know, people were starving and there were no jobs and so on and so forth. It was all artificially created. So this is, to a certain extent, very similar to that, except that we have this innovation and technology, and I think we're in a different sort of era. And what I mean by that is we know that the powers that be are running scared, or they're really concerned. So they're not going to play as much havoc this time around with Saturn in Capricorn. So this could be a time where we kind of reinvent ourselves and our economy in some way. I mean, the best thing that we could do for this country, if we wanted to get it started, is several things. One, you get rid of the central bank, and you have the government, you know, print money with some sort of guidelines in place from the states. Because remember, the states really have all the power, or should have all the power, to vote on major issues. So you create the currency based on a majority of the states voting on it, and you print money that way. And number two, you rebuild the country, because it's the best way to put people back to work is by rebuilding the infrastructure, the roads, and, you know, and stuff like that. And of course, creating some necessary charities in certain cities and so on and so forth.
Right.
And with real money.
But we would need a new deal, which Trump is busy disassembling Roosevelt's New Deal almost every day. So do you think it's safe to say that he'll get out and we'll get somebody back in to actually do the things you're talking about?
Well, you know, my take on Trump, and I told you this, he may just be a one-term president and not want to run again. But again, this guy in particular, out of all the candidates, all the puppets they had up there, this guy in particular plays a very interesting role because he's part of the Illuminati, the so-called Illuminati, and, you know, the military loves him. So something's going on here where he's trying to cut these deals with the powers that shouldn't be, at the same time appease the generals. And so I really do think that he somehow has the country's best interest in terms of, you know, not destroying the country on whether it's economic or social. I don't know what the hell his game plan is. And really, I really don't care, because the people pulling the strings behind the scenes are the ones that are really telling him what to do. And
well, yeah, I mean, they're actively destroying every branch of the government, everything normal about this country, whether that's good or bad.
Right. So, I mean,
Joe, we need to take a quick break.
Sure.
So stay with us. Joe and I will be right back. Hi, this is Maria Heller. If you're enjoying this show, please consider listening to the rest of it, along with hundreds of other hours of education, by a small subscription on my site. Get over to meria.net, MERIA.net. You are the only thing that supports this show. There's no corporate control, and there's plenty of education on site. So please consider either a subscription or a donation to keep the work going. There are too many alternative voices out there that are being silenced because of lack of support. So if you don't want MSM to be the only mind-controlling news out there, please consider supporting the people that support you and help us all save something for the future for our children. Thank you so much.